Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us. My name is Frank Hain. I'm on the partner sales team at HashiCorp, and welcome to our third edition of how to transition into tech with a non-traditional background. Our focus today is on support engineering, and just move forward, just so you folks have an idea here. Approximate agenda here is, we're just going to a quick background, what we'd like for everyone to get out of this webinar. The reason for us doing this. We'll definitely talk about our esteemed panelists, Chip Vaughn and Ciara Clements, and then we'll do a deep dive right into support engineering. And questions are always welcome. We have a nice intimate group here, so please feel free to use that Q&A section in the chat. Definitely welcome questions. We'll get to them as soon as possible. And we have a series of some very short poll questions as well that will be going on throughout the webinar. So if we can get that first one up, that'd be great, and we'll just have maybe 2 or 3 more throughout the webinar. So appreciate that. And just a quick level set and background here. So we all work at HashiCorp here. We are a leading cloud software company, public company, over 2,000 employees, 100 million downloads a year of our software. And at the end of the day, what we'd love for you folks to take away with what we do at HashiCorp is our software solutions just help companies everywhere, small companies, large companies, all around the world, kind of provision, secure, run, and connect all of their applications in a very automated, safe, and better way. So we are a cloud software company. And then, this webinar is produced by, our awesome communications team, but also by the Blacksmiths Employee Resource Group, or ERG. The Blacksmiths is an internal HashiCorp employee community, and you can see our reason for being up there. And Ciara and Chip are on the leadership team there. I'm a member. And at the end of the day, our main mission is to really kind of influence policies, promote practices and resources for growth of folks of African descent at HashiCorp. So thank you, everyone, for answering those questions. Appreciate that. And let me jump into the introductions here. And Ciara, Chip, also definitely feel free to talk more about the Blacksmiths if you would like. And maybe just to start here, Ciara, I put a little bit of your bio here, but if you'd like to just kind of kick things off for us here, maybe talk a little bit about your role, kind of a brief kind of your journey into tech, into HashiCorp, and would love to hear more from you. So I'll let you take it away here.
Thanks, Frank. Yeah, gosh, where do I start? It's been 9 years. Next year will be 10. That's quite a lot. I jumped into tech through my first job was a web hosting company, and that was also support. That was external customer-facing support. So basically come full circle. After that, it was internal support. And ERG is very important to me, doing the work that we do, bringing more light into tech for those of African descent. And right now at HashiCorp, I am a federal vault support engineer. So I am working on building that team out so that we can support more federal customers with a bit of a different workflow. And I've been with HashiCorp since July of 2021.
Awesome. Thank you, Ciara. Appreciate that. And Chip, I'll pass it over to you. Maybe a quick intro. I'd love to hear more about you and a short journey into HashiCorp and tech in general.
Cool. Thank you for the introduction, Frank. Hi, everyone. I'm Chip Vaughn. Here at HashiCorp, I am a senior support engineer level 2, supporting every and all console users, both open source as well as enterprise. I've been with the company since April 2018, so that makes me an old head by tech standards. Right now, in my current space, I'm helping creating SOPs or standard operating procedures for the core team, the console support core team, as well as act as a dedicated support for our larger console users. Been working support for going on 13 years, plus extra 2 years when working as a Geek Squad rep Love technology, love breaking things, love working with people, and love like trying to fix issues, make better people, better users, better power users. So yeah, looking forward to having this opportunity to talk more.
Awesome. Great to hear, Chip. Thank you, Chip. Ciara, let me stop sharing now just so we can see kind of full screen for everyone on here. And Ciara, maybe can you do a little deeper dive into kind of maybe humble beginnings and then, your journey into support engineering specifically? Would love to hear more about that. And everyone on the call, obviously, as well.
So well before my web hosting gig, I was working on a naval base as a front desk clerk. And that was pretty much overnight. So while I was manning a ghost town desk for about a year, I was studying about Linux and command line so that I could go into tech. I had started my college journey thinking I was going to major in journalism. My mother, love her to pieces, said that was not an option. So I needed to go into STEM. So I switched my major to computer science and took a break from school, come home, and I jumped at the opportunity to be a tier one representative at the web hosting company I was at. And then I was brought on to Gannett as internal digital support. So I was poached and moved over. And then eventually it was time for me to find a different direction to grow my technical skills at HashiCorp. So I left there after 5 years, and now I've been here. So I hope that I get another 5 years.
Great to hear, Ciara. No, that's quite a journey. I mean, you could have been a journalist. STEM is not easy. Neither one is easy, but thank you for telling us that. And Chip, maybe a little deeper dive in your background. It would be great to hear that too.
Sure. So I feel like I've cheated because I do come from a tech background. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science in University of Maryland. Go Terps. Graduated 2010. But as far as my support journey, it actually came from like a moment of crisis. It was about maybe after I did the internship at this very like mom and pop company, right, as a software engineer. Love the company, but I kind of was feeling like I don't know how I feel about writing code for like 8 hours a day, 4 hours a week. Like if I don't care about the product itself, I just don't have the drive to do it. So it's kind of like in a crisis situation, trying to figure out like what I'm going to do because I'm about to graduate literally in like 5 months. So then I was like looking around, just breezing through, and I saw like, oh, like your support engineering positions. Because like again, I've been doing like support pretty much my entire life. Like I was the family fix-it person with every time there was a TV broken or something with a computer, in some cases video game consoles, I'm literally the first one friends and family would call. So I was like, oh, could this be a career? So I looked around, saw the first position I took as a call center support engineer, much more like a support representative at a company, e-prescriber company called Dr. First in the DMV area, District, Maryland, Virginia, for people around to know. From there, I worked at some other small companies, worked at Ecrion, who does e-documentation, Jack B, who's now since been acquired by Software AG, working on their Presto big data environment. Did a 1.5-year stint as a support associate at the Department of Justice, which was interesting to say the very least. The red tape is very much real. And like, as much as I like the team I worked at, I cannot prescribe people working in the government. It just can get messy at times. From there, I worked at a company called Sauce Labs, which is hilariously enough, their headquarters is like maybe like a block away from HashiCorp's HQ for about 3 years as a support engineer. And then around that third year, I kind of hit the wall in terms of where I want to go. And I didn't like have the mentorship that I was looking for. So I reached out to some people who worked at HashiCorp. Saw like, oh, they have open position. About a month later, and 5 months, year in, I'm still repping support in console land. So
great to hear, Chip. Thank you. No, it's great to hear about your background. I think a lot of us, on the call can probably feel you that about being the family IT support, whether you're equipped or not, it's like, hey, fix this for me, for any folks. So maybe Chip, just to maybe double click a little bit more, you and Ciara are in support engineering. If we let's take a few steps back, 10,000-foot view for folks who may not be as familiar, they think of support, maybe a call center, someone's calling in. what is support engineering as a whole? And then maybe if you could talk about maybe support engineering specifically at HashiCorp as well. And then Ciara, I'll love to hear from you as well.
Sure. To the 10,000 view gaze, support engineering is essentially you diagnose and look into issues that customers respond to based on the product you're supporting. In my particular case, I'm doing console, and Ciara case is Vault. What does it entail? So generally we have our CRM system, Zendesk, that customers will open up tickets asking, I'm having issues trying to start up a console data center, or I'm running issues with ACL, access control lists, for those who don't know, having issues trying to set up service mesh, or like I'm hitting an outage, like my console closer is pretty much broke. Help me, help me, help me. Everything's on fire. So essentially we look at the ticket, we try to get as much data as possible to help with investigation. For us, I think for roles of Vault as well, try to gather a bunch of debug logs from the console servers, any information about the environment itself, like if there was a change in terms of the use case within the last couple of hours or even days, any changes in the resource structure. Has there been add more CPU, or did something change in the network during the time? And from there, we try to look at the issue, try to repo if we're able to. If it's a non-outage issues, we try to if you're actually able to reproduce the issue, we open up bug JIRA's tasks with the engineering team to look into and talk about how we can go about this, how we can see this be fixed to a later version of console Vault if need be, or anything that could help them in the meantime. For our situations, basically just hands on deck, get the customer back up and ready as soon as possible. Had to bring in engineering if need be, if it turns out to be a bug in real time, which has happened quite a bit in my experience. And again, just try and make the customers both happy and the empower users. Also, outside of ticket work, we concentrate on writing knowledge-based articles, getting better users, better power users, so they actually have an idea to troubleshoot things themselves before they have the need to create tickets. And then again, for my specific case right now, I'm helping create SOPs to enrich and enlighten my fellow engineers so they know
SOPs being
standard operating procedures.
Got it.
Again, for those that didn't know, using acronyms. So essentially that entails make sure having procedures saying what cases are, what things to ask for, how to escalate engineering, so again, bring the users back to resolution.
Got it. No, thank you, Chip, for that detail. So it sounds like, there's definitely responses to customer issues and challenges, but there's a considerable amount of, I'll call it, internal knowledge work to make your team better as well. Not necessarily customer focused, but, internal focus as well. So there's that.
And one thing I'll also add, which just came to mind, is that actually having close contact with engineering, I can say that I made close contact and make good friends with engineering, because generally if an issue comes up and I feel there's a need where, improvements need to be made, I will be the first one to say hey, engineering, what we're doing right now could be better. How can we fix this? How can we treat this better? So we don't have to see so many issues that come up from day to day. So there's a lot of not documentation, having discussions, triage meetings with engineering to see what priority bugs are and what improvements can be made, and on top of the general help fix issues from the front end with Zendesk.
Got it. So providing feedback there too.
Yeah.
Ciara, would love to hear about your view as well. Are you on mute?
Okay, spacebar doesn't want to work today. That's fine. I think that I definitely back up everything Chip said. I think one of the things that makes being a support engineer here unique is that we are not a call center. You cannot pick up a phone and call me with your issue, because our products, you're not going to get anything done there, right? So when you think about support, it's it's all call centers, it's all help desk. It's not. We're very versatile. And I think other companies as well, but particularly ours, it doesn't make too much sense to try to call in and tell somebody your problem. So I appreciate that we utilize virtual meetings like Zoom to connect with our customers. And I think that makes it a bit easier and a little less frustrating for everybody involved, because you can see what's going on versus getting a description that you may not be able to visualize. But something that I think Chip doesn't like to remind everybody is that we do contribute largely to GitHub repos as support engineers. And I don't know how many people know that you're capable of contributing to a repo as a support engineer. This is not, yes.
Yeah, sorry, Sarah, just for the folks out there, just in case, a couple sentences on what a GitHub repo is and kind of what that means to contribute there.
So a lot of code for a lot of companies, especially for custom builds, they have that in GitHub. And they have private repos. Some of them have public repos just to keep everything in one place, to push up and create websites, software. It's just one great central location to keep a lot of things and have teams contribute and people contribute. And this is not my first company in contributing to GitHub and providing code or updates, but it is one of the first where it is willingly done. I'm not forced into doing it. I am encouraged by engineering here to, if you see an improvement and it works, go for it. So the journey and support here, I think, can be a little more empowering, and just collaborating with engineering and product for the better of our customers, because we're all here for one thing, right? That's to make sure that customers are successful, they can use our products, they're not frustrated. So it's helpful to be encouraged to contribute and collaborate. Chip and I collaborate a lot. We tag each other in a lot of stuff. So I think support also is about collaborating and learning how to cooperate, collaborate, and bounce ideas off of each other and how things can be bettered.
Got it. Oh, thank you, Sarah. And maybe going off of that, and just in the theme of our webinar for folks transitioning into tech. So it sounds, we are a tech company. We have software solutions. They can be complex. It can be complex for our customers. Ciara, Chip, you have, just a little bit. You have engineer in your title. For someone transitioning in, do they have to, Chip, I know you have, you mentioned a tech degree. Ciara, you're reading Linux books in your front clerk hours. Does someone need to have an engineering degree? What does an entry level kind of maybe position look like? What does that look like? Is it required? How savvy do you have to be? Chip or Ciara, either one.
I can take this one. Like, even though I have a tech degree, like I know and I'm friends with many support engineers through a variety of jobs that have never touched, like gone to any like CS class. Like I feel like degree, like I don't want to go on a tangent about degrees because I feel like in this day and age, like degree doesn't hold that much weight as it used back in the day. But like if you have the drive and skill and will to like want to learn and want to try something out, go for it. With engineer, like, it requires like you have a good understanding of code, like how structures or work, how like basically write a function. But you can literally like Google that. Like there are so many resources right now, like between like Udemy and Khan Academy and AWS at this point that have like resources like you can learn code by spending 4 years in school. Like if you want to go down that path, more power to you. It's still a great resource, but it's not the end all be all if you want to get into like not only just support engineer, but just engineering in general.
Yeah, I think for support engineering, a lot of people sell themselves short. Like I was a front desk clerk. My customer service skills are what got me into other spaces because they're transferable. And being able to de-escalate a situation, connect with a customer, make them feel better at the end of the day, that is a big skill to have. I personally, and I tell everybody, I can teach you the rest. I can't teach you the people part. So you don't need to have the degree. I don't have my degree yet. Like I'm working on it, but that didn't stop me. And that wasn't a factor in me becoming an application support engineer at my last job and a support engineer here. It's about once it's to that point, you're resourceful. Google is your best friend. I can't tell you how many times I Google something because I'm like, I don't even know where to begin with this. And it's okay. It's not a bad thing to Google an issue or Google what something means in terms of software programs or whatever somebody might be talking about. But like, don't feel bad about that. So I hate thinking that people sell themselves short because they're like, oh, well, I don't have the degree. It doesn't matter. Like, as long as someone is willing to take a chance and teach you and you've got the people skills, because that's what a lot of support is, you can jump right on in.
And to add on to Ciara's point, because I love she brought up the people manager part. The thing I say to like aspiring support engineers or people in general, like support engineering, you kind of earn a honorary degree in psychology because you spend time with a lot of different people types. Like you can deal with people, engineers or users who know the product but are still having issues. You have people who have no idea what they're doing. They really got the product front and face. They're processing like, hey, here's this new toy we have, make it work. And then you have people who are too knowledgeable to their own good where they think they know everything. It's kind of like you have to like, okay, like, yes, that is true, but this is another thing you need not to understand, but maybe to reconsider. Like it's funny like how I would like it's always fun like going through like different tickets and seeing like, okay, this person knows exactly how to use console. They just have issues trying to get things configured, or maybe they actually hit a bug. Cool. And there's another person you can really clear like you can tell like maybe the first paragraph is like, I don't know how to do this. Like something that's literally full face on our documentation, they still have no idea what they're doing, which are actually the easiest tickets to deal with. Like those tickets, like, okay, this is like easy, like 10-minute where blurb to now go. And then of course the people that I've talked to before are like saying like, this is help, this is broken, I need pitch, blah, blah, blah. But like, oh no, but your resources are poorly underpowered to what your use case is doing. You're not following our requirement or recommendations at all. You're basically running everything off of one server, which is, yeah, you're going, if things break, things gonna break. And then like there's basically like you need to reorder your whole situation. Like help me, help you, essentially.
Got it. Thank you, Ciara. Thank you, Chip, for diving into that. So it's good to know that, well, how much of the job would you say, not necessarily at HashiCorp, but maybe support engineering as a whole, what percent would you say is, kind of people process, right? And then what percent is like the technical, kind of under the hood, bits and bytes, let's say. For it. And, for the folks that are out there, this is not, it's not necessarily the Bible or to be set in stone. It can vary from company to company, customer to customer, but you folks bring up an interesting point. So I'd love to hear about that.
Do you want to take this one or go first?
I'll take this.
Okay.
I'd say it's about 70% people managing, and then the 30% is the troubleshooting, the figuring out the coding, the deep dive, the Googling, because for any issue, there's a level of frustration for every single customer. It doesn't matter if it's a large level, if it's a minimal level of frustration. And a lot of the times that initial contact is just someone wanting to be heard and told that you're going to work with them. And that's the biggest part, I think, of our job, is letting somebody know that you hear them, you're going to work this through, regardless of what it takes, a lot of the time. No matter the time of day, a lot of the time, you're going to see it through with them because it's important. And so all customers want to know that you deem their issue important. And that is the biggest part of our jobs, is making sure we convey that their issue is important and we are going to try our hardest to get them to a resolution that's going to work and stick, not just a Band-Aid. Because that's a big thing too. That's a separate thing. You don't want a Band-Aid fix. You want a true fix that's going to work in the long run.
Kind of relating back to kind of what Chip was saying about, okay, what is the underlying issue? What is the overall kind of problem here? Let's work towards that. Sorry, Chip.
Yeah, I Ciara could not say any better. Like, even adding to like what I was talking about, like psychology of it, like, especially like Ciara pointed out, like people just want to be heard. Like, there are cases where like you can tell by like I was mentioned like earlier in the last response, like you can tell exactly what kind of issue it is, and maybe it's like the point of like, especially when you get on calls, you can just tell like oh, they're like literally under the gun, they're trying to get this work, or else jobs are online, because again, these are people that we're dealing with. Like these are real life applications that our products are assisting with to help go through day to day. So yeah, I would say like the 70%. I would even go like say 75% is almost people managing, especially during outage situations. Then like the other 25% is consisting of research, trying to repair the issue, working with engineering comes with a bug, and then trying to find ways to get them off that cliff. So
makes sense. It's great to hear that. So a lot of the job is, you're not just, well, we are all behind computers, a lot of us in tech, but you're interfacing with a customer, with a live human being. There's a lot of listening skills involved, process, patience, I imagine, as well. And then just a little bit, and then a technical piece. So maybe maybe just to kind of dive into that a little bit more about that the people versus tech. And Chip, Ciara, you folks talked about kind of your beginnings. What did that first support engineering job look like? If you think back, you have a decade plus in tech. This is your first job. How much in that ratio? How much of that people did you apply? How much of that tech did you already know? Did you have to learn? Just for folks on the call, hey, they're in a non-tech job. They're looking for an entry-level role. What did that look like for you? And maybe Ciara, you want to take that, or Chip? Yeah.
Yeah, I could take that. It. I honestly scrambled searching through a lot of how to help my first couple of customers in my first tech job. Because for me, what I learned in school did not entirely translate to my job. It didn't teach me how to troubleshoot. It taught me how to build. So the degree didn't mean anything other than I had general definition of what something was and how to make it work. I didn't get taught, now that it's broken, how do you fix it? And that's why I think everybody can be taught to transition into tech, because it's not about what you know. It's honestly about how resourceful can you be and how fast can you Google. I also spend some time Googling on live calls. Like, let me look that up. Or I'm searching through our internal stuff. But I think a lot of people forget that training is available. When you get hired, training is available. I don't find it helpful to expect people to know everything about your product when you hire them. They may know a little bit. They may know not much, like I did when I first came to HashiCorp. But that shouldn't stop their ability to do the job you hired them for. Invest in training, invest in them. That way they also don't feel too alone. So it's, oh, well, I could never. You absolutely could be a support engineer. 1,000%. Like, they're the only thing sometimes stopping people is themselves and thinking that it's going to be too hard. It is hard. Support is not for the faint of heart. But even just like between the yelling, which was a lot of my first job, because websites were down, right? And that's people's livelihoods. That's their business. So why is my site down?
Customers yelling.
Customers yelling. Why is my site down? And I had to get very good at Googling. So if you were not good at Googling before you start your first tech job, I promise you will be that much better like a month in. That much better. So just have patience with yourself and don't count yourself out before anybody else can. Like, just take the shot, take the deep dive, learn some basic Linux commands. That is usually the first thing you start doing, is learning basic Linux commands, and going through the command line interface so that you can figure out some pretty traditional stuff, such as looking up logs, searching through logs for keywords. But every support role out there is a little different. So for some desktop support, they might need to know how to troubleshoot a virtual machine. I fortunately do not need to know that right now.
Right now, yeah.
Right now. So it's just take your time in learning the basics, which is generally Linux commands and how to run Linux, looking at error codes. But don't count yourself out yet. It's not as hard as it sounds. It's vast, but it's not as hard as it sounds to get in the door.
Awesome. Makes sense. Let's do a quick pause. Danny, if you could get the next poll question up, that'd be great for folks in the audience. And I don't see any open questions right now, but please, questions are very welcome here. So Ciara, thank you for that response. It kind of sounds like no one can be expected to know everything. But, in the role, there's an expectation to listen to the customer, be resourceful as well, to find the information. Or Chip, you're also talking about working with engineering, to find other people. And Chip and Ciara, you folks work together as well. So it's a team effort too.
Definitely all for one for all type of situation.
Yeah. Great to hear. And then, we're kind of getting to the tail end here. I'd love to hear about maybe what you like most about the role, and sometimes what you find most challenging. It doesn't necessarily have to be HashiCorp. Could be the role as a whole. Maybe Chip, I'll start with you.
Sure, I'll go start with the good. What I like about workers purging, why I've been doing it for as long as I have been. Um, Actually, it's like a two-part answer to that. I love what I do because I know in the whole industry scheme of things, I'm looked down upon like, oh, like you're an support engineer, like you don't feel comfortable up doing code. Like it has nothing to do with that. If I want to be a software engineer, I can easily apply for that. But I know who I am. I know the skills I pertain and have. Like I like support engineering because I like talking to people. I like learning new tech. I still am writing code in the background, even though I'm not writing code like 80/40. And I'm still using the skills I learned, spent 4 years in college, and acquire skills from then on to like do what I do. Another part is like there's never such thing. There's no such thing as a dull moment support because there's always something happening every single day. That's kind of what I love. Like it's almost like that. It's pretty much fast paced. I would even go with HashiCorp, like with console, like because it's such an emerging technology. Like we're doing so many new things, especially in the service mesh perspective. Like there are so many things I'm keeping reading up. Like I'm reading up on Envoy. Like I took an Envoy bootcamp course like back a couple of weeks ago. I learned Go for an understanding of how console is written because most of the Hedge product is written in Go, and I come from a Java, C++, C Sharp background. So trying to relearn all those structures and like try to apply that to Go has been very interesting. I'm reading stuff from tickets with customers using console in ways I didn't imagine even possible. Like looking over, like, oh, I guess that does work that way. I never thought about that and try. And then from there, working with engineers like, oh, so that's one use case we need to figure out. Like, how can we tweak it to make sure it's actually viable? So again, never a dull moment, and like I want to get that respect in the name of support engineering. The not so good, sometimes dealing with some customers. Some customers can be a little trying, definitely testing of the patience. I know one particular case when I first started was like one of the huge customers. This maybe when I was like maybe 3 months in at the time. And it was like my first outage case. And basically it was like everything's on fire, things are breaking, we need help now. And basically I had to like, yeah, this is like one of my first few tickets I worked on. I was trying like, and I was still learning the product myself. I was still trying like, understand, like get all the necessary information, try to reproduce it, which I was able to. And then along the way, with engineering, it's like, okay, maybe this actually, I think, helped with a part of it with engineering where it was like, actually, this might be a solution where they can use this instead of this. And like talk to the customer who was, at least at the start, was kind of like trying to talk over it by saying, like, this is, we're paying a lot of money, which, again, I understand, like, yelling at me is not exactly the best way to go about it. Like, it's a whole different story. And then eventually, cooler heads finally prevailed. The solution worked in place. That came into the form of a custom binary we gave to the customer so they can use. And, they were appreciative of the work that I was doing and appreciated that I delivered them and got them off the cliff. So, sometimes customers can be trying of the patience, but again, we're dealing with real people. Like some people, right, they're trying to get stuff done to make sure like they, A, have employment, and B, make sure the processes are in place. So right, I don't take it too seriously. Sometimes like I just have to step back and walk away. It's like, okay, that was a moment, and then just rush it off, get a drink of water, and just go back to the ground, to the next one, and just keep on going. So
nice. Thank you, Chip. And I think you bring up something interesting as well is, we're in the software world. These folks, the tensions run high. Their their business depends on our products, and you are the front line to help them be successful.
I am the lifeline.
You are the lifeline, right? You are there. So that's great to hear. I'll take a quick pause. We did get one question, and then Ciara, you kind of alluded to this. This person asked, what do you think one should learn first to get started? For example, Linux. I know this can be really broad. There's a lot of tech out there, but what's a good starting point? Ciara, you talked about a command line, but Chip, Ciara, I'll float it to you folks.
In terms of Linux, I think what will really help for basics is being able to search through files on your practice machine, your own machine, and get familiar with Linux and command line that way. Because a lot of what Chip and I do is just going through the logs and finding what the errors are saying, what they're pointing to. And that is not that's universal. Is if you have logs, you're going through them to check whether that be your desktop support and you're being told what the error is on someone's machine. So familiarizing yourself with being able to navigate through logs, your own folders on your own computer so that you can navigate somebody else how to get to their logs, their own files, because we also encounter that, right? Everyone, when you're stressed out, you're frustrated, a system is down, an application is down, you're not even thinking about what you would normally be doing to find your logs. You're like, I don't know how to do that anymore. And we have to keep in mind that everybody's human, right? So, well, Chip said, get yelled at, get frustrated. Traditionally, for every single support role known, seen, a lot of people forget that they are also talking to a human. So we bring that more human interaction and remember that the person who is talking to you is a human, and then you humanize yourself with your empathy and your compassion. But Linux is definitely the groundwork for almost all things tech. And that is why I would give it a base. If you want to take it a step further, you can pick something to be your niche. Some people take Kubernetes, some people do AWS or Azure. But I always recommend you find a piece of technology that interests you to decide to be your niche. Because if it doesn't interest you, you don't like it, you're going to hate learning about it. So I am proficient in LDAP, and that's a piece of technology, right? Everybody's using Active Directory for their access needs. I almost said properly. And so that's one of my niches is LDAP as well as Okta, because I love both of those things in terms of security, control, and access. And that's my wheelhouse. Also a little bit of SQL, but don't tell anybody. So find what makes you want to dig more into it and open up other little trails, and how then you can tie into how people integrate it. Like Chip said, he finds out different ways people use console. I find that out every day. I'm like, I didn't even know you could do this with Vault. But that's really it. Find your niche, find what interests you in terms of technology and software. There's always also being majorly used today, like Azure or GCP. A lot of people need support engineers who know GCP and I think GKE. I'm sure I'll hear about this later if I got it wrong.
And GCP being Google Cloud Platform, the
Google
kind of big
Cloud
three.
Platform.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what GKE means.
I believe it's Google Kubernetes Engine.
There we go. Thanks, Chip's got me. This is how we work
Yeah.
on a regular basis. So find something that interests you.
Okay.
Like Kubernetes doesn't interest me, so I'm not going deeper into foundational knowledge to help customers work out their issues. But I'm knee deep in LDAP stuff all the time. And people like specialized to help bring somebody into a team to fill in a gap. So you don't need to know everything. Chip and I don't know everything about everything that comes in, but we have our niches, and that's how you also collaborate with each other. Because if everybody has a little piece of something, you work with each other to figure out customer issues when you're stuck.
I think that's great advice, Ciara. Thank you. And also, I think it's great to talk about, you got to find something you're interested in, because if you're not interested, you're not going to feel like you're not going to get up and want to read about it or even try it out. But if you do learn it and then you go to an interview, I can imagine whoever's interviewing can say, oh, this person is relatively proficient or learned this. They can pick up some of the other things that are involved as well.
Exactly.
Ciara, maybe we stay with you. Challenges and what you like most about the support engineering world.
My biggest challenge is learning when to let go the support world. I strongly, and I think everybody who's ever worked with me knows, I don't like when I can't solve something for a customer. Whether like if it's a bug, that's different. But if I cannot figure out how to reproduce, I feel like I'm letting somebody down. So it can be hard for me to let go of an issue and let somebody else help, because it's like, I don't want to burden anybody else, but I also want to get this fixed for you. So it's a bit of a control thing that you are relying on me to help find this issue. And the hardest part is remembering that it's not just me, I'm part of a team. And that's also a big pro to have is reminding yourself that it's not just you are part of a team, and your team should be able to help each other out to solve issues for customers. It does not all fall on you. And sometimes being paged in the middle of the night, not the best feeling in the world.
That can be part of the job. Yeah, that's maybe something to call out, on call duty. Yeah. Okay. So that was a challenge. What about what you like, what you enjoy about the role?
I love helping people.
Okay. Yeah.
That is why I'm still in support. I have told a lot of people I would like to continue my career in support because I genuinely love helping people. That gratification of thank you so much. Like, I've been working on this for like a week and I couldn't figure it out. That is instant gratification. And that is what keeps me going, is knowing that I'm helping people and they are grateful and they're happy. And that is really it.
Thank you. And sorry for the bark there, folks. Living live here. Chip, maybe we could talk about what kind of technologies, where could someone start as well? If you could chip in on that question.
Sure. Ciara hit the nail on the head, like Linux, like just messing around, like learning how to do CDs and LS, PS aux, like everything Linux related to like help searching. Definitely go into that wheelhouse. I also go say learn regular expressions, especially when you like try to go through logs and try to find keywords instances. Like sometimes you get like logs files or like million of lines large. Sometimes you need to find something like really specific. So like I've definitely put in, say, learn a little bit of regular expressions. That's helping out quite a bit. Learning like try and find information. As far as like programming languages, like I would say if you want to start in, like go with Python. I found Go to be a pretty easy language to get into and mess around with. JavaScript, Ruby. If you want to go real crazy with, I'll say C#. As much as like I've done Java in my life, I cannot condone Java because like as much as I've gone back into like learn new languages, like Java's the worst. Even though it kind of gave me a good blueprint, like how structured I think about how code's written, Java's just kind of bad. So definitely like mess around, like get at least know at least one language. Like even learning like SQL, like I cannot tell you, like I don't use SQL so much as of right now, but like in previous jobs, SQL's like literally saved my butt. And then also just don't be afraid to ask questions. Like I can promise you, when I first joined HashiCorp, I knew nothing of console. I literally spent my first week during my onboard just hounding my manager at times, like, so I want to be good at this job. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. Please teach me, and just keep on asking questions. And now that I'm kind of like the senior member of my team, I try to make sure to be that person to my other members because, like, we're all in this together. Like I see, it's all for one for all. If one person is going insane and have an issue time, then all of us are going to feel that pain. So it's better to help all of us uplift at the same time than try and act like assassins or whatever. So
great, thank you, Chip. And we got a question from the audience. And it's kind of related, Ciara, Chip, what you folks are talking about. How important is being proficient in cloud platforms like AWS or Azure?
I think now a lot of companies put a lot of importance on it. I wouldn't unless it's something you want to know. Because if you get proficient, you don't like it, and you get a job in it, you're going to be miserable. I tinker with AWS, I tinker with Azure, but it's not my end all be all. And I only use it when I need to. So it really depends on the company you're trying to work for, the work you're trying to do, how important that is. It's very subjective. I would not call it objective. The company's goals, what they want to do in cloud, will determine what they want for that role. But I'm not certified in either of those things. I have an A+ certification, which I do not use for my current job. So it's not necessary to be 100% in either of those to be a support engineer or even an engineer. You learn on the go.
Yeah, basically she took the words part of like, if you want to learn it, that's great. It's not really required to be like support engineer or even engineering, just but like if it's like something that the company or like you want to learn on your own time, absolutely go for it. But I can tell you, like I probably dabble in Azure and AWS maybe a couple of times per year. Like I tried not to stay as much in Azure role as possible because it could be a very crazy place. But like, yeah, I would not put too much emphasis on AWS. Like, if it's something like you're really passionate about, like you're into cloud computing, absolutely go for it, go nuts. But it's nothing like, oh, I need to know this to get job A. Like you can literally find other engineers that don't require like that much of like cloud computing.
Awesome. Well, Ciara, Chip, thank you so much. We're getting to the end of our webinar here. Really appreciate your insights, your experience, and everything. And hopefully everyone that was on, hopefully we answered all your questions, that this was valuable to you. We will have this webinar on demand. We will upload to YouTube in due time as well. And in the meantime, let's stay connected. And thank you so much again. Thank you everyone for joining. Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Take care. This is fun. Good job, Frank. Thanks.